Alright, hello everyone. So we're going to be graphing a couple sine and cosine graphs today. So this one we have the equation y equals sine of 1/4 x. Alright, so a couple things before we start. I just want to pull out all my information. So the first thing we're going to look at is our amplitude. Our amplitude comes from that number out in front. Remember, the amplitude is always positive. So regardless if this is a positive 3 or negative 3, my amplitude will always be positive. My amplitude is equal to 3. In case you didn't know, the amplitude is defined by the distance from the midline to the max. And again, since it's a distance, that's why it's always going to be positive. Then I'm going to find my period. The way to get my new period is it's always the original function period divided by that number. So the period of sine is 2 pi divided by 1/4. When I'm dividing by a fraction, I like to make both things a fraction. So it's going to be 2 pi over 1 all over 1/4. Then, to get rid of this fraction divided by a fraction, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. Multiply by 4 over 1, multiply by 4 over 1. So my new period is going to become 8 pi. Once I have my period, I'm going to do what I call my step. And the step is how far I am in between all my points. So for sine, we use 5 points to help us out, and so my step is going to be the spacing I take in between my points. So my step is always going to be the new period divided by 4. Right? We pick 4 because sine has 5 points. So if I have 5 points, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, that means that I have 4 spaces along the way. So I'm dividing by 4 to get how big that spacing is. So we're going to take 8 pi divided by 4. That means my step is 2. Okay. The last thing to note is that this is a sine function. Right. Sine functions always go midline to the max, to the midline, to the min, to the midline. Right. This goes back to that same idea of that step. The step is the space between the points. These are our points: midline, max, midline, max, midline. Right? So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna start graphing now with all this information that I have pulled. So there's my graph. So my period, I'm gonna go from 0 up into my periods is 8 pi, and then, like I said, I'm gonna split this up into 4 spaces. So I got 2 pi, 4 pi, and 6 pi. Okay, so again, this is my step: 2 pi, 2 pi, 2 pi, and 2 pi. From there, I need to deal with my amplitude. So I know the distance from my midline. In this case, my midline is going to be at y equals 0. Give me 1 second. So my midline is at y equals 0. There isn't any vertical shift here, so it is always just going to be at that center if there's no vertical shift. So midline at y equals 0. So my amplitude, again, is the distance from the midline to my max. So 1, 2, 3. And same thing for the min. It is also 1, 2, 3. That max and min. So now, start graphing. Sine, again, it starts at the midline to the maximum, back to the midline, to the minimum, back up to the midline. And then I'm going to connect my points. And I can put arrows on. this is one period of the equation y equals 3 sine of 1/4 x. So that is how you graph a sine function with an amplitude change and a period change.